Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in MeteorJS, episode number 14. We've been assiduously trying to keep politics out of our talks and just focus on tech, but politics this week has come to tech in the form of a coup. I think some of you know what I'm talking about. We'll chat a little bit about that and what impact it has to developers like you, and also for the developers using MeteorJS. This week we have a guest. We've got Sasha Grief, one of the, as they say, the old guys that came up with Meteor, who has now moved on to bigger and better things. And we will be talking about survey results today of different kinds. Sasha is going to be part of it, but we have one internal survey that our own Dan Dornhart initiated. So with that, I'm going to say you are watching or listening to the 14th episode of This Week in MeteorJS, a new segment of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. I'm your host, Alim Gafar in New York City.
I'm Dvorak, aka Storyteller in Prague.
I'm Küster from Germany. Hello.
All right, guys. Great. And it's really good to see everybody here today. And give me 1 second here because I have technical difficulties. All right. So with that, I think unless you were hiding out this weekend, you would probably have heard that OpenAI, which about a year ago blew into the world with ChatGPT as a bot interface that people could play with, and people have been playing with it for a while and doing all sorts of really interesting things, including writing code or using it as a code assistant. And Microsoft, which has been one of their key investors, has spent a lot of money, I think over $10 billion invested in building out OpenAI's system and offering their infrastructure as a place where OpenAI can continue to build their large language models. But on top of that, Microsoft has been infusing elements of ChatGPT into their products, including GitHub and with GitHub Copilot. And one of the things that's been done over the past year or so is trying to enhance developer productivity by allowing people to use natural language requests to generate code. And no place is that more obvious these days than with GitHub Copilot. And with that, I want to pass on the rest of this conversation about GitHub Copilot and its impact in Meteor over to Storyteller, who will pick up on the rest of this story.
All right. So you might have heard about a few weeks back, there was the Universe 2023 conference, which is a GitHub Universe. And as you can read, from their official website, University was about AI, security, and developer experience. Honestly, mainly from their keynote, was all about the promise of AI, specifically, about Copilot and the future of workspaces, and pretty much telling us that we as developers have a limited shelf life. That's kind of what I mainly took out of it. And that especially for corporations that can afford to get the GitHub workspaces and all that stuff, that they are going to get really cool features. And when I'm in limited shelf life, I am kind of hard. That's kind of at the heart of the AI discussion. How long before it perfect specific tasks. So I'm thinking 10 years. But that said, one of the big things there also was that you can now get Copilot in JetBrains, which I also tested myself yesterday. And so far, my personal experience is that it gives really nice suggestion, as especially like kind of the boilerplate or repeating code. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. And I think it will be our own folly to underestimate it and kind of not adapt it. On the plus side, though, is that what they showed there is that the Copilot also is going to be integrated into things like, generating text for your PRs and stuff like that. So once you get it, which I think will slowly become a must going forward, I don't want to ever see a PR that doesn't have a description of what's happening in there or without the proper title. You can just click the damn icon, it will do it for you.
Can I ask you, Storyteller, have you used Copilot yet?
Just a little bit via their JetBrains integration that they put in it. And I will be looking at any Cyber Monday or some discounts to see if they have some to buy the individual license and try it out even more. And I'm actually quite curious how well it's going to work or not work with Meteor, because that has been always not always, but recently a sticking point given all the Meteor 3 upgrade, how well it works with other tools as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, with older code and with 2, I think you can get some pretty nice template helpers built just by using LLM, through ChatGPT.
Yep.
It's not so bad. You have to do a little cleanup work, but it takes care of the majority of your scaffolding, right? And it's not so bad.
Yeah, my biggest impression, my biggest impression was when I was coding like a button, and I wanted to show a different text based on what the property is being passed in. So I did the initial if the type equals this, and then it gave me the option to insert the correct text element in there, which I'm using formatted message from React INTL. So it correctly guessed that's what I want to have there. It correctly guessed the ID of the text. So that was very, very cool.
Yeah, it's nice to when it actually helps enhance developer productivity rather than entirely replace the developer. I think that's a very helpful thing if it helps reduce bugs, right? If it helps use existing patterns that you might not be familiar with, but it teaches you along the way. I think that can be a really, really helpful tool, and looking forward to it. I know of it more in Visual Studio, but you say you use it with JetBrains. How's the integration there?
Yeah, I said WebStorm. The integration was something that they announced at the conference. I think it still has a long way to go, but it's for what it's currently doing, it's more than enough, and it's working pretty well. Pretty much for every Wowman, there's okay, this doesn't work yet as it should be. And in the future, the big thing is that they are going to integrate also the chat, so it will be more interactive in there. But definitely something to keep an eye on. Yes, Jan?
But what I like to get more covered by this whole AI coding assistance topics is testing.
Yes.
Because I'm always thinking about, okay, I've written something nice and I had already some specs, but now I would like to just write down the specs and just get my unit test just written down, even if they're empty. This is already so much time and effort you put into place to writing these tests, especially if you want to have a decent test coverage. I'm writing sometimes 1.5 up to 2 times the code that I've written for the actual code in terms of tests. So
yes, that's exactly how I feel, or how at least in the beginning really want the thing to go. And I think here's also a nice comment from Kelly, which also really summarizes it. And Kelly says, I have had Copilot since beta testing. At this point, it's pretty nice code completion tool, but it's not panacea. A new English word for me to learn. But yeah, fully agree. That's my sentiment as well. But yeah, as I said, definitely something to keep an eye on and integrate probably for better productivity, and also keep an eye on to know when it's time to switch carriers, because we'll be made obsolete.
Well, before we're made obsolete, why don't we find out more about what the community is thinking, or what the plan is to find out what the community is thinking about our future in terms of surveys?
Yes. So surveys. One just hot off the presses, I think was just published like a few days back, is State of JavaScript 2023. It's from the long line of the successful state of JS, and it will ask you about a lot of questions. I always tell people, take this primarily just to learn about all the new stuff, or maybe some stuff that you didn't know about. And one of the big things what has been added here is that you can add stuff to your reading list, which you then can get at the end, so that you can review and maybe learn something new. But kind of more on this survey, all that stuff, I'll be talking more with Sasha later in the show. So with that, let's take it a little bit back home. And what do people think about Meteor 3 migration?
Yeah, so this is basically the topic we all want to know. What's the status of the migrations from people's project? And as we already told you in former episodes, there was a survey, a community internal survey that was open to everyone, and by Daniel Dornhardt. And I think we had quite a number of respondents, and he compiled the results. I don't want to get too much into detail because it's a lot that came back, and you should all read it up for yourself to get a quite good impression. All I can say is, and it's a mix of everything. Everything is represented there, from we are actually already there until to there is lots of stuff to be done. Or we haven't even looked into it yet. And if you didn't participate in the survey, but you also want to mention, feel free to go to the forums and comment on that, because I think this adds even more realistic image, and maybe also some qualitative insights like, well, we are not there, or we are already there because this and that. This is very important insights for others as well. And basically, what you also can get from the survey results is what the actual hot topics are in these terms, in the migration topic. Without going too much into detail, there's one thing I want to mention here, definitely to you all. There was one response that said there is confusion about the packages. And we don't know which packages will be available, or Meteor 3 ready, or which are updated. In our last episode, we covered that topic already when we had Kelly Copley as our guest, who is the creator of the Packosphere. And if this is some topic that bothers you, then you should check that out, because with Packosphere, it's community hosted, and we could try to find a solution for this problem as a community on our own. Coming back to this survey topic, I also found other people's using your old packages. That was one of the responses. And please review the packages you're using and get in contact with us, get in contact with the community to find out what we could do about your old packages. It shouldn't be a big problem anymore. And if it is, then we need to make this visible to everyone. We need to discuss it. We need to discuss this. We need to talk about it. And so we can all move on, because you're not the only person who's using a year's old package, maybe. Right. One more blocker that I want to cover here was that it was mentioned that Meteor.call async is still a little bit of problematic, because the method stubs in the client are still not 100% async compatible as we think they should be. And this is where I want to head to the next topic, because I don't want to cover the whole results here right now. I want to get to the next topic, which is already some kind of a solution proposal for this problem, so it might be in interest of all of us. And I give it to Jan to talk a little bit about what this is about.
So starting with Meteor 2.8, we got the new async calls and all the a lot of async functions all over the place. And if you look at the documentation, there's quite a long list of explaining what are the limitations, and this is primarily, how you place async and synchronous method calls, how to place them properly so it works. And one of the issue was limitation of the method stubbing, which goes back to the magic of Meteor, which was the optimistic UI, that it could predict what the server is going to respond and display the results, or at least simulate results to the user while waiting for the actual response from the server. And with going to async, we've kind of, let's say, started losing that. And that's where Southern came recently with a fix, how to, hopefully fix this issue. So we can kind of still write the code as we used to in the Meteor 2 land. So, Jan?
I don't want to go too much into detail as well here, because it's getting very technical, but it's mostly about the event loops and how the browsers are handling events and how the Meteor stubs are actually positioned within this event loop, and certain kind of execution routines, the micro tasks and the macro tasks and so on. And so it's mostly a solution that bases on some of the browser and node execution standards. And so this is also wrapped in a package already by Southern. And you should, if this is a topic that concerns you, you should definitely try that package out and give response here. I think there were already some positive responses on that. And but nevertheless, as we already told many times, the more people trying out new things, the more responses they give, the better we all benefit from this, and the better this all becomes for all of us. And I think there is a second proposal on how this could be solved.
Yes.
I think that was from Felipe.
No. Just to kind of point, the Southern solution, as you said, it's very technical, uses event loops, and it has certain limitations. So Felipe pointed here a list of resources that they use in Quave about, kind of learning about these, not just, event loops, but, promises and other internals, which I would recommend in general just to learn about for the technical people out there. And later on, let me just scroll here. Yes, from Lisnik, aka Andrei Lisnik, he posted his solution to the problem, which even he admitted is probably not the necessarily correct one, because it's I wouldn't necessarily simplistic, but it's more, from my understanding, at least from quickly what I read, a lot of timers and checking back, which you could say Southern has potentially more elegant solution. But to that, both of these solutions have been added as pull requests to the official, or to the Meteor repository, so that we can, we can test them out, and if we can, and primarily also to run against the test suite. So it's merging into release 3. So, if you test, for example, Southern's package, then, you can go in here and, kind of write your findings. And also maybe, hopefully, we can then fix the tasks as soon as possible and settle on a solution that will be officially merged in. So I kind of want to also highlight this, that people will in development cryo if something is happening like big and potentially going away. That happens, and but there usually is some other solution. It's just a matter of giving the people the time to think about it, test things out, and come with solutions. And so patience is the big important thing. I don't think anybody really has solved that many issues by just beating the computer when it froze.
Well, so Kelly, who's in the audience right now, just popped in to say, I don't know anybody else, but keeping optimistic updates is super important to me. It's a real pain to implement this in other data layers like Apollo. And I think that's a good point. So this, as we're talking about, is related to this notion of optimistic UI, which is if you're disconnected and you do a computation, it still shows up in your application, and eventually it'll make its way back into the server and propagate through. And so this is some of the historic magic in Meteor. And to some people, it is super important. Other people don't really use it. So if you do use it and you care about it, you may want to go take a look at this. Okay, what do we have next?
So next, quick updates about Meteor development. We have Meteor 2.14 beta 4, which has a web app update to get some of the Cordova fixes in, bug fixes. And then next time we'll have soon another PR sprint, which should be probably our last one, where we are going to merge more of Harry Adele's underscore removal PRs, and we'll probably move to release candidates. On Meteor 3, we have Alpha 19, and there were a few more, Alpha 18, I think 17 since last time we spoke, and most of this is just bug fixes, so nothing huge, and it's probably last out of Alpha. Currently, we are waiting, at least according to the official discussion on GitHub, on review of the Meteor.call async apply and apply async by Radoslav. And I think these, as we talked before, potentially the stub fixes either from Southern or something like that. So that I think is probably the last that we are looking at here in the alpha, and then it's off to beta, which has a long list. So
okay, I'm sorry, I was just going to ask you really quickly. So we are currently in the betas at this point. We're out of alpha on
no, we are still in the alpha, or we are still waiting for, at least according to this document. There might be some other consideration, but we are still waiting for this final review on these calls. And I think potentially, for the async stubs issue to be fixed either, by Alisnik or Zodern's solution potentially.
Right. And with regard to the beta, so the fact that there are these version numbers on the beta, like it's beta 18 right now, right? Mm-hmm. Beta.18.
Beta 4,
is that all internal?
No, you can get it and you can run it already if it's like beta or alpha stuff. You can do Meteor update -- release, and then your 2.14 -beta.4 or here 3.0 alpha.19. You can get it, you can update and test your Meteor application with that already.
Okay, so but I'm just asking, so are we, because you can get the betas, are we officially in the beta at this point, or are we done with the alphas?
No, we are still in the alphas. The betas are for 2.14.
No, there's a 3 series beta is what we have a notation in our notes here, so I'm a little confused.
Sorry, that's my mistake. That's true.
Okay, all right. So for the folks that I'm confusing because we had an error in our document, don't listen to what I've just said here, because we were just trying to solve an internal issue. We are still in the alpha. And when do we think? So, are we still thinking that we will have the beta this year?
I will be pushing for it as hard as possible because it needs to get out.
So until these issues that we've talked about or you brought up just recently are resolved, we can't go to alpha. I'm sorry, we can't go to beta. Oh my God.
Well, technically we could. It all depends on what the Meteor team says they want to do. If we take a quick look here on the beta, it's pretty much at that point, it's of course a lot of documentation updates, guides, tutorials, more stress testing, migration, code mods, and all that stuff.
So it's the beta really kind of covers the stuff that supports the big code fixes that go into the alpha.
Yeah, it's looking at this, at least like from the high up, it's once we go into beta, most of the work, at least on the main Meteor stuff, is done, and then it should be expanding more on the supporting infrastructure,
and usage
around that. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent.
And packages.
All right. Cool. What's next on our list here?
So last thing, this just came literally a few minutes before we went live, and I got echo from the Meteor team that there is something called community bounties, and this is through a platform called Algora, which enables you to, if you really need some issue fixed quickly and want to motivate the developers to prioritize it, you can add a bounty to it, so that they are then financially motivated to look at the issue faster and resolve it as quickly as possible. So this is something that we have been discussing. I think it might have been actually in our first episode that we mentioned Algora. So that's now available, and I'm hoping that we'll also have like an official announcements on the forums soon about this. So you can see here kind of the list of all the issues that are listed in the official Meteor or in the Meteor core repository, and then you should be able to click on it here, or this was going to bring you there, but you should be, apologies, so you can then fund issue and how much do you want to add on whose behalf. So that's now possible. And the other good news with that is that also works for the Meteor community packages organization. So if you want to motivate me, Jan, and other community developers to work on specific issues, then now you have the option to do so. So yeah, that's
right.
And where is the site? This is the platform that Meteor software uses to create bounties, right? To share this information.
Exactly.
So I guess
Algora.io.
Okay, so we'll put that into the show notes also, and share that with everybody.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And also, when I get it right, we could also use that from our side to put bounties on some bugs when we have not the time to fix things, for example, but it's pressuring or something. So this is also a good tool for us, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, terrific. Now, I think we are done with the news. And so now we get into our feature section. And this week we have a conversation with somebody who's been part of the Meteor community from the very beginning, had made some significant contributions to it in terms of podcasts and learning tools and so on. And Storyteller this week decided to have a chat with him. He is no longer officially part of the Meteor community. He sticks his foot in here and there, but he's gone out and done bigger and broader things in the JavaScript community and the design community. You might know who I'm talking about right now, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we are talking about the inimitable Sasha Grief. And so with that, I'll pass the handle over to Storyteller.
All right, and now for something different. As you might notice, this is a bit different look. Alim and Diane is gone, and this is because it's pre-recorded part. The reason is because I have with me here Sasha Grief, the author of the JavaScript survey. He is based in my favorite country of Japan, and sadly, if we wanted to do live interview with him, that would mean that would be ungodly hours for him. So we had to do some pre-recording and do it in the morning of my time. So with me here is Sasha Grief. You might know him if you've been around Meteor for a while. He's been, say, one of the, not original crew necessarily, but one of the people that has been around for Meteor for a while. He has also done a framework called Vulkan. And now he has been running, or most known in the wider JavaScript ecosystem for running the State of survey, which started with State of JavaScript. So hello, Sasha, how are you doing? It's good morning for you, good afternoon for you.
Hey.
So what else can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy to be here because Meteor still has a very special place in my heart. That was, I wrote a book about Meteor called Discover Meteor, which, a lot of people learned the framework with, but that was almost over 10 years ago. So it's pretty.
Seems like another lifetime, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's scary to think it's been so long already. But yeah, and so like you said, now I run developer surveys, and Meteor did play a role in, creating those surveys, because when I stopped using Meteor, when I wanted to, explore the wider JavaScript world, that's when I actually launched the survey, because I felt very lost and I needed some data to guide me. And so I think it's in large part because Meteor makes everything so easy that, I had the incentive to create the surveys to help me find my way. So if I hadn't been a Meteor user, I don't think I would have even had the idea to do these surveys. And so now the surveys have been running for 7 years. Yeah. And that's also a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, this year's State of JavaScript survey just came out.
Yes, so State of JavaScript 2023. So you said has been, let me quickly
the first one was in 2016. So
if we look here on the homepage, 2016, has been quite that's been a while. I do recall I've been taking all of them religiously because of how much fun it is for me to kind of discover, as I stated previously, discover, what else is out there, what I don't know. And for example, with the framework, I always think, if I know about them, but it's always like, I don't care about it because I have Meteors, but that's me. What would you say would be like one of the, or what would be kind of the reasons for people to take this? Because sometimes it's just a survey, it just wastes time, so I don't get anything from it. It's not like you are offering people money to take it. What would you say, besides kind of what I already mentioned, is for personal, knowledge, to learn new stuff? Why should people, take them?
Yeah, I mean, what I always tell people is there's so much stuff to learn in web development that it's kind of impossible to learn it, but you can be aware of it, right? So I think these surveys are a pretty good way to do that, because we're looking at features. You can see hashbang grammar or logical assignment, and maybe you won't remember what they are, but you maybe remember the name. You know that they exist, and then when you need something like that, you'd at least be able to start your Google search with the right term, or refer back to the survey. So I think they're very useful learning tools to just get a quick overview of what exists. And in fact, we designed the surveys this way, right? So as you can see here, when we ask about JavaScript features, we ask about the newest features, the ones that you might not know. We don't ask about, do you use if statements and for loops, because of course everybody already knows that. So it's really geared towards new stuff that you might want to learn now or in the future. And same with libraries. So we ask about state management libraries, for example. And personally, I don't use any of the ones that we ask about. I don't use them in general. But just knowing that they exist means that if I do need one someday, it's much easier to evaluate the different options, maybe look at the data, the results from previous years, and then go from there. So another thing we do on the right-hand column here, you can see there's a reading list, and that's because you can add items to your list and get, at the end of the survey, you'll actually get a list of all the relevant resources and links we have about these items, and you can even email it to yourself as a reference for future learning. So yeah, I mean, there's still a lot we could do, but I'm really trying to make the survey itself a good learning resources and not just the results, right? So that's been kind of our philosophy so far.
Awesome. I do recall a few years back, Meteor was removed from the list of frameworks because it was no longer as popular in the wider community. Is that still the case, or can we somehow find where we can pimp Meteor to everybody?
So Meteor is listed in the other tools section in like backend frameworks. And yeah, I mean, the truth is basically one reason why we might remove a framework is if it's not popular, but also just if the trend is pretty stable. And I think Meteor has now found its niche. People who like it, people who don't like it, don't like it. And, I don't think it's desirable for the framework to still be listed if it's going to be low popularity or low usage. Same with something like Gatsby. So it's still listed this year, but given the recent trends, even though, we use Gatsby to actually publish the results. So, there's definitely a community, there's value there, but given its trend, next year I was thinking about removing it just to avoid just, piling on, because what happens is the people who have checked Meteor out, 10 years ago, whatever, they're not gonna change their opinion. But the new people who might want to learn about it, if they see that it's listed but nobody uses it, it might discourage them, right? So for something like Meteor, which currently might not have the most traction, I'd rather leave it out. And then if in the future it gets a second life, then we can always list it again. I think hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. So message for everybody listening here: go in, check in here Meteor, so that we get more votes and get shown more up on the list. Speaking of, adding, removing, so what's kind of like the big new thing this year? I've noticed in previous surveys this year that you had, I think the biggest thing was the addition of the ring. Is that the new this year, or was that also last year there as well? So before we continue, Alim, I believe you wanted to add here something.
Yeah, so I think Sasha's argument about whether or not to continue including Meteor and his rationale behind possibly taking it off the list is really interesting. The view is that if it doesn't appear on the list, then it's more likely that people are not going to ignore it or walk away from it. But I think the other side to that, though, is because you won't see that it's not as popular. But at the same time, I think it not being there makes it entirely invisible. And so if you take a look at the list and you see these other frameworks that are available and Meteor is not there, then it's almost as if, like, if you encountered it, you might say, well, geez, it just doesn't even bother qualifying. It's, why would I spend any time, right? So think regardless of where it stands, I think it probably should show up, and I'm a little concerned about the idea. I know Sasha loves Meteor, and he's trying to come up with a reasonable idea as to, where it should play. Should we show that it's had like declining popularity over the years because people have moved on to the nice, newest and shiny thing, right? Or should we just not put it on at all? And hopefully when people discover it for the first time, they're like, okay, it doesn't show up on this list, but it could be cool. I'm conflicted in terms of how I think about this right now. I don't know what Küster thinks on this.
Yeah, I think it's. I can understand the rationale behind it. The question is, where will you see the usage or the decline? And if it's in the result again and again on the decline, or like the avoid sector, I think the avoid sector has been renamed now a little bit, so it doesn't sound like, oh, danger, danger, avoid, avoid. But I covered that in an article some time ago on 2022. What's the state of Meteor in 2022, and where it was very shocking that it was in this avoid section, but it was basically because of some of the decline and so on. So I can understand the rationale, but I can also understand your point with the invisibility. And I think what I could think of as a solution here would be to have in the survey results or something like this, when a framework has been removed, that it's still mentioned something like, and here are some more frameworks you could also check out. Yeah, because I think we are all developers, and especially those with experience know that hype and popularity isn't everything. And so if there is something else worth to check out, then they will check it out. So this is just my 2 cents on popularity.
Yes. So, Alim, I've got muted.
Thank you. I think going off what you just said right now, I would say, yes, it makes sense to maybe have a category that's just a list, right, of, honorable mentions or classics, right? Things that have been there in the past, right? That maybe not as popular today, but still are worth using. And perhaps just even have a single, line description about the framework, so people get some kind of context about it. So it's like a real-time, framework for building full applications, just something like that, like a tagline, right? And then it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to go down further. But I don't think, I think losing that position in terms of showing like the popularity thing, I get that, because the thing is, it can hurt you if all you see is a declining line. It just makes people run out the door. But not having a presence at all is I think just as bad. So I think if Sasha were to put, a separate list, like, frameworks to watch, old classics, or something else, right, could be helpful to the ones that are not as popular, and let people decide for themselves if they want to go beyond the popular list and look deeper into other frameworks that are out there. And in that way, the survey is really comprehensive.
Yes, so just gonna want to point out Kelly's comment here again. I think we'll have a lot of work to do to bring about a Meteor Renaissance, which I fully agree with. And I think the first step is to go take the survey, vote for Meteor, tell everybody else to vote for Meteor, so that we ensure that we are at least with the other frameworks on the list. And now let's finish off the interview and learn more about the reading list and how it came, or when it came about.
think it was either CSS 2023, so this year, or maybe JavaScript 2022, but I think CSS. Yeah, either this year or the last survey last year. Sometimes things run late and we do the survey from one year in the next year, so it gets confusing. But yeah, it's fairly recent. In terms of contents, this JavaScript survey hasn't changed that much. But what's changed this year is we added actually 2 new surveys. So state of HTML and state of React. And yeah, so that brings our total to 4 plus the state of GraphQL survey, which we didn't do this year because I think we might do it as a every 2-year biannual survey just to leave the ecosystem time to evolve. So 4 or 5 surveys, depending on how you're counting. And the HTML and React surveys, they are brand new. So that's going to be all new data. And I'm pretty excited. As a result, I haven't been able to actually publish the data yet because I just haven't had the time to process the data, to set up the results, come up with new data visualizations, and so on. So that will probably get pushed back to 2024. But I'm pretty excited to see what comes out of that. And of course, the state of JS survey as well.
So how long is this going to run?
So the state of JS survey, so it's open now. It will run until December 10, probably. Sometimes, we might leave it running a bit longer if there's still responses incoming, but that's the closing date for now.
Awesome. So I guess we can expect the results like in January or something like that?
Hopefully, yeah. I'm not sure yet with like I said, with the HTML and React survey and the JavaScript survey. I'm not sure how I'm going to schedule all the results yet. So it might be staggered a bit, but hopefully, yeah, early 2024.
Awesome. Do you want to add anything else?
No, I mean, thanks for having me again. I'm always happy to get more people to take the survey, especially from different communities with different opinions, using different technologies. I think that's super important because you don't want, all Vue people or all React people to just take the survey and kind of give a biased representation of the ecosystem. So yeah, go take the survey. Hopefully you get some value out of it, and see you soon for the results.
Awesome. Just before we go, where can people find you? How can they reach out to you if you want them to reach out?
Yeah, we have a Discord for the surveys. So the collective behind the survey is called Dvorak. So we have our own Discord, which is linked in the footer of all the surveys. And that's probably the best way to reach me. Or leave an issue on GitHub. That works too if you find any problems with the survey itself. Yeah, that's probably good enough.
Awesome. And of course, on Twitter as Sasha Grief.
Yeah.
So thank you very much again for your time. And I hope we will be able to talk to you more in the future as well about the results and about your involvement past involvement in Meteor.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. And now back to the show. Indeed, we are back. And I think, Alim, it's time for the final announcements.
Yeah, well, first, before we get to those final announcements, I think we have a couple of shout outs that we'd like to make. One being on Monday. Well, last week Jan Storyteller mentioned that he is going to be increasing his video presence because he's getting ready for like his Hollywood casting calls. So he needs to get more time on screen and so on. So on Mondays, he's going to be doing live streams. And this Monday, both Jans are going to be on the live stream. And what are you going to be chatting about on that live stream?
So it will be a working live stream in the first half. So me and Jan are going to go over Blaze PRs and try to merge as many of them as much as possible. And for the rest, kind of figure out what else needs to be done, document that. My idea is to definitely do the official Blaze repository, but then also to go to some of the community packages, depending on how much time Jan will have. And in the second half, I will be probably continuing with some of the PRs and taking on calls and appearances from my sponsors.
Excellent. All right. And so I think we're all looking forward to seeing that and participating in the chat with you guys. So in a lot of ways, what you're doing is you're uncovering the mystery that people might have or people might feel there is behind what goes on in terms of an open source project, making contributions, and how does that propagate out into actually making it into the code base. So I think that's going to be really cool. And on top of it, I think on Monday, we also have a birthday that we should talk about, which is it's Gabriel Gruba. I'm doing it again. Gabriel Gruba's birthday is on Monday. I think he turns 12, right? Something like that. It's so it's going to be his birthday on that. I'm going to mention one other birthday. Today's my mother's birthday, and I better say something right now. Otherwise, I don't think I will ever hear from her again. I don't think she watches YouTube. I don't think she knows what YouTube is. But if somebody shows it to her and I don't mention it, then, she turns 80 today, and I'm very happy for her. And, anyway, what we would love is all of you guys that are in the community. We want to develop more relationship with you. So if you have a birthday, an anniversary, something special coming up that you'd like us to talk about, mention you, we would be very, very happy to give you a shout out and let you know about this. And you know what we have not done for this entire episode is we have not asked you guys to subscribe to our channel, like the episode, suggest us, follow us, recommend us to other people so that we can grow this community. We're up to 116 members now, and that's because of you, all of you who have come here, participated, and then decided that, you know what, I'm going to hit the subscribe button, has gotten us to 116, and that's a great number. We would like to see that grow more. I think our next goal is to try to get to 500. Is that right, guys? Right,
yep.
Members? So that's sort of like our next internal goal is we'd like to do that. We'd like to do that before we get to, I would say, February, if at all possible. So we're going to be working very hard to try to find new content, new ways to add value to the community and bring information to you. And for that to really happen, we do need your involvement. We need you to fill out the form that we have that's in the show notes that suggest items for us to talk about. Tell us what you're interested in. Tell us what you'd like to see more of. Let us know what you'd like to see less of. And all of those things will help us give you the best experience, the best content to make it worth your while to spend time with us on a Friday or afterwards with the recordings. We're encouraging people not just to spend time with us in the show, but to spend time with Meteor. Yeah. Download it, build an app with it, run into problems, talk to people. Okay? And you can do that here. You could do that in the Slack channel, the Meteor Community Slack channel. You could do that on the Meteor forums. There's some wonderful places to go and find that. And I'm making a commitment that before the end of the year, I'm going to do 2 or 3 pieces of short form content. Short form content. Work the mouth properly. Where I'll go through and so it'll be nice and consumable. Where if you're not always familiar with where to go to do what, I'll go through that and I'll let you know. Hey, if you've got a quick question to ask, what's the appropriate place to find people and to ask a question and get feedback? Who are some of the people in the community that have been historically willing to help share information with you? Where would you go in and find comprehensive information with regard to some specific feature or a bug fix, things like that. So I'm going to be working on that between now and the new year to get them out in some short form content because I don't think we need to have a very long episode, a couple of minutes. and I think it'll get you on your way. We want to make sure that you have useful tools that get you working well with Meteor, get you productive, and get you out there. And with that, I also want to mention that we had an expectation of doing a Blaze panel on Tuesday, and we have some really great folks that are on that panel. Storyteller, could you tell us some of the names of the people that have committed to going on that panel? And let me just mention, we're postponing this a little bit because we have some holiday conflicts. But who are some of the people that have agreed to join us on this panel for this discussion?
So I will be the moderator if everything allows. We'll have, of course, Jan Küster. Then we'll have Gabriel Gruba, and also
from the Meteor team.
Yep. Yes, and also Radoslav Mernik. So that's our core crew, and that will be 3 people talking, one looking up into the chat, and maybe we'll find somebody else, or if we suddenly have somebody else coming, maybe Zodern, we shall see, but pretty much somebody from the Blaze community, if they want to come in, we shall see. But these are the 3 people we have.
And possibly a Blaze developer who, who has some really insightful observations to share, and then get responses back from the community on the panelists on that. So we'll it's sort of like a little bit in flux right now exactly what that is going to look like. But we do have, as Storyteller has mentioned, some firm commitments of people who have done significant work in the community on Meteor and on Blaze, and we're very happy to have them and to work with them, and hopefully you will get deeper insights into what's happening with Blaze and where we might be going in the future with this. And this is contemplated not as just a single episode, but as perhaps 2 or 3 episodes, because Blaze and what happens around it, there's a lot of moving parts. And I think to try to capture all of that in a single episode is really difficult, and it might confuse the discussion. So we are committing to also doing a multi-episode set on these Blaze panels and discussions on Blaze. And with that, I just want to get towards the end here. I mean, we're pretty much at the end. We have not seen any significant feedback over the last couple of days, over the last couple of weeks. As we've said before, when you are watching, if something comes to mind and you have a question, you have a comment, you have some kind of feedback, please, put them in the comments on the video. Send us some information in Slack or on Discord or wherever. We read all of them, and when we get them and it's something that's useful and shareable, we not only answer it, well, we bring it back to the channel the next week to talk about it. So thank you so much for joining us. And I also want to remind you that a lot of the community work happens on the backs of the folks that put their time and effort in. As I've said before, they do it on their time, on their dime. And if you know of developers who have sponsorships or could use a cup of coffee to stay up while they're working and they're like very, very sleepy and they're trying to get that last piece of code in, please consider sponsoring them. Both of the ons here have GitHub sponsorship pages. As Storyteller mentioned before, now you can go beyond them in terms of who you might want to sponsor to work on some specific bug fix or issue or feature with the platform that Meteor software uses for bounties. And that's really all I have to say for now. So until next week, have a good weekend.